Jelani, since you just try to do apparently as many as you can come up with for the Cinema Chain Gang, are you? You're upset that you can only not put 3, 5, 5. Just piss pound the leaderboard
4 times.
I put my one in and I got it done, and I was like, oh, if I could get it shorter, can I try to do that?
Yeah.
But because it takes it as soon as you put it in,
right?
Then that's why
But I also don't like that it doesn't remember you, because I wanted to go back and get my. I did it in 6, and I don't want to have to input everything again. So I wanted to send it to you how I did it, but I'm like, I'm not.
So what I've been doing is just screenshotting it immediately because
as soon as
we can just look at it.
No, I don't have it anymore. That's what I'm saying.
It's not on the leaderboard. If your leaderboard is up, you can drop down and see it.
You can?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I didn't know that.
Surprised you didn't know that.
Welcome to Our Film Fathers Podcast, the definitive podcast about fatherhood, film, and fatherhood in film. This is Jelani, and with me as always are woulda been and a grower, not a shower, Martin and Brady.
Hey guys, one more thing. Hey, this summer, when you're being inundated with all this American bicentennial 4th of July brouhaha, don't forget what you're celebrating. That's the fact that a bunch of slave-owning, aristocratic white males didn't want to pay their taxes.
The trick is, you can't fight it. You got to accept it. You got to fucking embrace your inner fucking strange, man. Just be fucking weird, you know? And when you do that, you bring who you are, never who they want. And that, my friend, is when it gets fun.
This week, we check back in with the slacker filmmaker that defined a generation in the 90s with a film about the 70s. And then did it again in the 10s with a film about the 80s. We are, of course, talking about Richard Linklater and his monumental Dazed and Confused, as well as the underrated Everybody Wants Some. Are these accurate portrayals of the 70s and 80s, or do they look like more fun than they actually were?
I mean, I think he makes a pretty good case of making it look like a lot of fun, but yeah, probably not. It's not as good. You guys always, I think, say to me, yeah, I don't think the good old days were as good as you think, right? Like things are it's probably better now to be able to watch any movie or listen to any song you want, as opposed to being limited to your box of records.
Well, I think you're whether it's an old soul or whatever.
Yeah, right. I romanticize it.
Yeah, that's you. That fits you. I think. Yeah, you're maybe glossing over some of the the new stuff that exists in your world that you are. Using on a daily basis and completely love about life currently. But you do. You romanticize it, and it's fine. It's very much fits you. I think it always has. So it's
all right.
Not exactly surprising. I'll say I haven't seen Everybody Wants Some. I had vaguely heard of it. Mm-hmm. Definitely didn't really think, I want to watch that movie or anything. Hadn't seen Dazed and Confused in quite some time, but obviously I've seen it numerous times. So
I didn't know if that was obviously, but that you'd seen it numerous times.
I think back in the day it was mandatory viewing by
Jelani.
I hadn't seen it in a while,
but you have seen it.
Seen it a long time ago. It was a good refresher.
It was a high school watch for me.
Yeah,
first I didn't watch it in '93. Which would have been right before high school, but it was definitely a few times.
Yeah, I think it was high school.
In high school with friends, definitely with Viso. I remember watching it the first time, and he quotes Wooderson and all these guys all the time. So
I think these films are right up your alley because they do kind of romanticize the time, and I don't know if it is an accurate portrayal because again, if it is Texas is just wild, and you can pretty much do anything as a teen. They don't give a shit. But I enjoyed them. I enjoyed both of them.
I had a good time watching both of them this week.
Same.
For sure.
Same.
Yeah.
It was. I watched Dazed and Confused. Maybe I shouldn't have with my 13-year-old son Colin. And he was kind of, there wasn't anything terrible in there, but definitely a lot of drug and alcohol use.
Yeah.
There's that for sure.
I will also say I feel like these are kind of teen comedies without the slapstick. It's just, when you when you look at the main character, you know, whether it's Pink or whether it's Jack, and they're just like going through their lives trying to like
Jake,
sorry, not Jack. They're going through their lives trying to kind of just feel their way through, you know, what's happening and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, this is what we amped up into American Pie and Road Trip and all of these things later on.
I mean, these like goofy scenarios,
right?
That's the slapstick stuff you're saying, yeah.
But this is more just like, hey, just go with the flow where the day takes you, and
that's what I liked about Everybody Wants Some, right? Like, there's that scene when they're at the third party. What was it? He's like, we were at a disco. Oh, it was the punk band
Identity
stuff.
Crisis.
Slam dance. He's like, I'm having an identity crisis. It's a little heavy-handed with that, but I appreciate that because that kind of, I felt that way, you know, throughout high school as well. Like, you didn't want to always just be like pigeonholed in one box. You didn't want to be just the disco person or the country music. Hoedown, and then the punk rock, and then finally the last thing they did was like the theater kid. Art party.
And that's where I was like, oh, this feels a little bit. Talk about romanticizing it.
Yeah,
feels like it was a lot more of those groups not merging together, whereas this, you know, the jocks were managing to,
and they were all jocks doing all this.
Exactly, they were doing all these different things and going to all these places, and whether they're running things or whatever, probably not really thriving.
I feel like that is Richard Linklater though, like because he did play baseball, like
Sam Houston State.
Yeah, very clearly he's he's into baseball.
That was his house.
Oh, it was?
They only had one day of shooting. Sorry, I know we're jumping to the new one, but they only had one day to shoot in was it Fort Hays? Wherever Sam Houston State is, and they could only shoot for one single day. So they shot the house scene, and then everything else external from the house, they just used other side houses from other places around Austin and wherever else they shot. But the actual house was where he lived
interesting.
While he was in school.
So I mean, it definitely feels very, very autobiographical. But but he seems like that kind of person, right? He's very into sports. He's also very into smoking pot, very clearly, and partying, and into different types of music, as he's definitely shown throughout all these movies.
I think
think he's definitely a Renaissance man, but I think most people aren't.
Yes, in general, I think it's less likely to see these groups like essentially. Well, I don't know that they all merged together. It was that they all welcomed the baseball team to come and do and be a part of their hang and parties and bar.
Aren't you guys dumb? Some of us are.
Well, let's talk about Dazed though,
because
obviously I think that one
classic.
Is right. That's the classic. That's well more known, or a lot more
for sure
known, and is considered, I think, an all-time representation of
76. And like I said, it really, like you said in the intro, it really was a big movie for the 90s. I think it probably helped bring about like people being into the 70s and that kind of culture, that kind of hippie culture. Like there's a lot of that in my high school. It felt like,
well, I
in the 90s.
I thought you were going to say it brought about a whole wave of actors,
and that it was like influenced filmmaking, influenced the actors, but also the style. Like people romanticized the 70s, I think, because of this movie. I think it was in a big way. It's kind of wild that it was only so from 76 to 93 and it was made. That's only 17 years.
Yeah,
like you're talking about, if you did it again in 2020, talking about making a movie in 2003, it just wouldn't quite hit in the same. It wasn't that different of a world. 2020 to 20
paddling freshman,
right? Yeah, like you're
well
like you're
known
saying, like Texas, like they're knocking down mailboxes and
paddling the freshmen. Everybody's getting drunk, and they just they're
making the paddles in school.
They're making a bong in school.
Yeah, they're doing drugs on campus. Yeah,
you got to make that tighter, man. And they, what else was I going to say? Yeah, they don't card anybody, right? He's like, oh, you're 18, right? Or
just chatty,
or you're 21. I think they have to be 21.
So that there were those certain points when one of the characters was talking to like an older individual. Were those older people supposed to be anybody of significance? Like when he goes into the bar, or when he goes into the a liquor store and buys the beer.
Yeah.
Is that older guy supposed to be somebody we know or somebody that's related to Linklater? And
no, but I did
maybe
see
he might have been like in Slacker or one of his other movies.
He wasn't in one of his other movies, but I don't know about before that. He was apparently in a similar role in Boyhood.
Oh, okay.
He played a store clerk again.
And then when Pink is talking to the older couple and they're talking about like football, they're like, hey, you got 2,000 yards in that arm. Like,
yeah.
Is that supposed to be anybody really? Like, was that his parents?
Could be his parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just curious because there were a couple of times in the movie where like, those people that don't typically get like speaking roles have them. And you're like, okay, obviously they wanted you to have these roles. So what significance? I was just curious.
It could have been. I mean, he's big on, so his first movie, Slacker, and then this movie Waking Life. I don't know if you guys have seen Waking or heard. It's basically animated over the film. It's called rotoscoping, I think, when they draw over actual film cells. So it just makes it look like it's a cartoon, but it's the actual people are on the film too.
Was the Scanner Darkly done?
Scanner Darkly's done the same way. Okay. Yeah, it's the same process. So you get animators that you film it and then you draw over the film. So it's a really interesting effect. But yeah, those movies are just Slacker's just like one guy having a bunch of philosophical conversations with a bunch of different people. I mean, and you see that influence here, right? It really isn't. There's not very much of a cohesive story or anything that's going on. It's just a huge cast, a bunch of different people having a bunch of random conversations about life and various levels of diving into the philosophy of stuff. Waking Life was kind of trippy. I've only seen it once. I really loved it. I'm kind of scared to watch it again to see if I still like it or not. But I probably should check it out. And you guys, smoke a bowl and watch Waking Life. You might like it.
Only way to do it. Well, one other reason I think this movie, not only are just romanticizing the times as you do, is the reason that Linklater spent a sixth of the budget on acquiring song rights, because the songs are insane in terms of the amount of huge hits that are represented in the movie. I checked out some of them. I wasn't even getting all of them, and it was like, oh my god, another one. Every song they played was, and that's all I kept thinking about. I was like, how much did this cost? Back then, I think they just got away with it because, it said a sixth of the budget, but I just think now you think about how much it costs. We've said it before on some of those movies we've done, and yeah, it's crazy how much some cost to get in their movie.
That was the first note I had. I was like, this probably could have been a soundtrack September candidate, like easily.
Yeah, very easily.
Although I told Jen, I'm like, I think Brady and Martin are going to have an issue with one of the songs being played more than once.
Oh, I never like when that happens. I don't know what it was.
I don't know if I
don't really love
really?
Lowrider. I'm kind of like...
Oh, you don't like War?
I like the band War. I feel like I've heard Lowrider way too many times, and it's just kind of a...
Do you think it was better in Gone in 60 Seconds? That's
probably. Yeah, actually,
I think that's really what it comes down to. Usually, it's already been... It's used better in one other... all right, they own it.
After, but...
Yes, they own it.
Yeah.
So, the song is Foghat's Slow Ride.
Oh, okay. They used it twice?
I guess
three
I didn't...
beginning. They used it 3 times.
Oh, wow.
They used it in the very beginning.
I didn't document it until the very end.
They used it very beginning, and then they used it at a part in the middle, which almost
the very
was
beginning
like
is Sweet Emotion.
Oh, was it?
Starts with Aerosmith.
Oh,
right.
okay. So then it's in the middle, and then it's also at the end.
All right.
So
even though you're wrong about that first part, we'll take your word for it.
You think he slow riding and he heard low rider?
Yeah, right.
No, you know what?
Low rider.
I got low rider in the middle. I feel like
it was late, but
I believe you.
The one time,
I think they did it twice.
I believe you because it does. It's one of the. That is definitely a
that
song
doesn't feel like a Linklater move though, with all the songs he had.
No, but it wasn't noticeable, so it didn't bother me. If it
only bothered one person. But it was great, man. Between Sweet Emotion, School's Out for the Summer, Why Can't We Be Friends, Free Ride, No More Mr. Nice Guy. They was just like pounding hit after hit after hit,
and just a great, the obvious choice is School's Out for the Summer, but I don't hate it.
Correct,
because they're ripping through the lockers, throwing stuff all around. It plays. It works.
Yeah, they really left a mess.
Did you guys ever do that?
What's school about?
So I told you I watched it with Colin. I'm like, is that what you guys do? And he's like, no. I'm like, yeah, absolutely not. Can you imagine?
And you will not.
Can you imagine a 7th or 8th grader doing that now, or
throwing
high schooler?
Books and shit in the air? No.
Oh man, that never flew. Never flew.
No. Yeah, you just went into summer detention.
And then did you have your buddies sitting outside when you jumped down the slide and jumped on your bike?
Yeah,
What's the point of the slide? Fire escape?
Who's holding the bike? Who's holding the bike up?
A friend. A true friend.
True friend. How many times does Mitch Kramer touch his face or the bridge of his nose?
Tim Lincecum?
people say they do drinking games with that.
There's a big stretch of that when he's talking to the girl out front of the bar. He is nonstop.
Yeah, it's like 30 times or something.
Jen mentioned, she was like, "That's very good at being an awkward freshman." He played that really well.
It works. Yeah,
I never did a lot afterwards, so I think
he didn't do much.
He might have just been how he was.
in Waking Life, another Linklater movie, but I don't think he did much after that.
But there was a lot of people in this movie who were about to go on and have much, and still are having longer careers.
Yeah,
it feels like there's something to be said about the casting by Linklater and the casting director. Like they just were finding a lot of people who are. Who were? Whether they saw something or whether it all stemmed from this. So I mean, that's obviously part of it. But Jason, not Jeremy London. I don't know that I can tell the difference if I'm being honest.
Which one's in Out Cold?
I think Jeremy.
Jeremy.
Which one's in Mallrats?
I think Jeremy.
Oh yeah.
Oh, maybe you're right. Yeah. See, this is the problem. Joey Lorden Adams. We love her.
Also in Mallrats and Chasing Amy.
Yeah. And Big Daddy.
And Big Daddy, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a lot of Kevin Smith overlap, right?
Well, yeah, and maybe that's some of recognizing some of the people here. Mia Jovovich, who I guess a lot of her scenes got cut.
Yeah,
she's like third build, but she's not in it much. And she got really upset and quit acting until Fifth Element.
Lilu Dallas Multipass?
And that was literally when she essentially came back out. Yeah, Sean Andrews, no. Rory Cochrane.
Sorry, really quick side note. Have you guys seen any of the Resident Evil movies?
Yeah.
I've seen
I didn't realize there were so many. There's like 6 of them. And they all, I checked them, and they're all like 28% on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm like, so are any of these movies good? Are any of them worth
I think
watching?
I watched the first one because I played the first game, so I was like, oh, I'll see this. But
I think the first one might be all right.
First one looked. I saw the preview for it. It looked
but
okay,
it just got silly.
Okay.
Like,
yeah, I mean, they were just.
I mean, yeah, when you make 6 of something,
right? And it's kind of like Alien Resurrection. Like at the point where you're like, okay, is she a superhuman or is she what? Like, what is? Why is she able to survive like the virus and all this stuff? So
gotcha.
I don't really know Rory Cochrane. I know you said the name earlier.
Empire Records.
Okay.
He was in that. He was, but he plays like the beatnik character, right? That one that goes gambling with all the money away.
Oh yeah.
You're a superb manager, Joel. But yeah, in this one he plays the very, very stereotypical stoner guy. And I just love the way he's like complains about shotgun. It's something about that gets me every time. He's just like, all right, you can have it. But it's because I'm leaving. I never get shotgun, man.
Adam Goldberg, not a huge successful career, but I mean, he's definitely been around for a while.
No, but you've seen him.
Definitely. Anthony Rapp. Where do we know him from?
The Adventures in Babysitting.
Yeah. Solana, you know him from anything
about
else?
it.
Yeah, I had to look him up because I've seen him in something else, but I couldn't tell you what it was.
Okay. Yeah. Rent is at the top of his list, so way later, Ensemble Cast. Did you know the redhead?
I looked it up.
I didn't really. I always know her because Matthew McConaughey's famous line. I like red, but I did not know it was a Ribisi sister.
Twin.
Oh, twin
sister.
And her picture in like IMDb, she's very blonde.
Yes.
So it's also very like disorienting because, so that's a twin sister.
Had no clue.
One of 3 twins, Londons that we already mentioned, and Parker Posey, also a twin.
Huh. Love. I used to big crush on Parker Posey. That makes sense, right? That plays for me.
Yes, it does. Cole Hauser.
Yeah. Redheaded Cole Hauser too, right?
Yeah. Ben Affleck, who I think I saw something where he said he's the least. He's awful in this movie. Like he just sucks. And he's like everyone loves all the characters from this movie except mine. Like everyone else benefited from this except me because everyone just hated my guy.
And then he played the asshole in Mallrats as well, but somehow he kind of got out of that. And people
slowly but surely.
He's veered back in and out of the assholeness.
It said Vince Vaughn almost got one of the roles. It was the Cole Hauser role, I think. But like Litter said, him and Affleck look too similar.
Yeah,
and so he's like, he needed to mix it up a little bit.
Oh, that could have been interesting.
Yeah.
But I kept looking at this one actress. Let me find her, Dina Martin, and I was like, how do I know her? And she's only been in this. And speaking of Vince Vaughn, she was the girl in the pink, blonde in the pink. She's the waitress in Swingers with Vince Vaughn.
Oh,
and it's like, I'm like, what happened to her? Like, that's it. She's in 2 movies. I don't know. Find her attractive, but she didn't do much.
So and then you have Nikki Katt farther down there. We mentioned Parker Posey.
Nikki Katt with Ribisi in Boiler Room, right?
Yep. And then we'll finish on the big star to come out of this, but so just absolutely beautiful. Michelle Burke.
Is that the sister?
Jodie Kramer. Yeah. Just of Coneheads fame.
Oh, right. I don't know that I've seen
She's just gorgeous. I was really just like, man, just really struck by her. You were struck by Siobhan. I was struck by Michelle Burke. Jodie. Right. Yeah. But yeah, McConaughey is, of course, his first role. Even though she's not really a huge impact, we should say Renee Zellweger, also girl in the blue truck.
Oh, she was in this? I didn't see her.
Yeah,
was she?
You don't. She's nobody.
Oh,
she's just a girl sitting in a truck.
Oh, okay.
But it is her first movie. That's what I was saying earlier. We were talking about the Cinema Chain Game. .com from friend of the pod, Tom Redding. I was thinking when she was up the other day, that's why I thought of Dazed and Confused, because I was like, oh, well, she's in Dazed and Confused.
Maybe uncredited.
Nope, she's girl in the blue truck.
Oh, okay.
She's credited. I'm trying to give her the credit she deserves.
Martin doesn't want to buy it.
But McConaughey, this is obviously his first role too, but also he's very known for with some of the lines that have.
I mean, I don't think he can go out anywhere without somebody saying "all right, all right, all right" to him. So that's just is known.
Be a lot cooler if you did. I think that was the line we used a little bit too much.
Yeah,
I felt like just seeing him on there, like that would have been like the good hang, like just to ride around with him. And then even now, like I think McConaughey's probably still a good hang.
No, I mean. Yeah, absolutely. No doubt.
Johnny going on a limb again.
him and Woody Harrelson were in Ed TV together or something. They're like good friends.
True Detective.
And True Detective.
Was Ed TV the one with the monkey?
I don't know. It was like one of the.
Ed TV was like Truman Show.
Yeah, it was like the
pre-Truman Show, but
not it was like around the same time. I feel like they both came.
But it wasn't as good.
Wasn't as good. But that's what I think they first met, and they've been friends. And yes, they're both seem to me like, good hangs. That's a good way to describe it.
But the cast, it really is just crazy the amount of people that were in this that went on to be known for many other things. And I just think there's really something to be said for Linklater's eye for talent in that regard. And maybe I don't want to overgive him credit. I'm sure there's other people involved in that, but finding those people that are not only representative of like that time frame and look like stoners and
and 70s kids, and I do like the way they blended the younger kid, the freshmen, with the high school kids. It is just, I know I said there's not a big story or a big plot here. But it works. It's just it's a fun, lighthearted, good movie about a party that doesn't happen, essentially, and going into high school for first year and having seniors take freshmen under their wings, all that kind of stuff, and some assholes, and just a good weekend or a good one night.
Yeah,
really,
it's like 24 hours.
High school, yeah, it's 24 hours.
Yeah.
And when everybody wants some, it is really just a couple of days. but a lot happens to it. It definitely feels like he's like, hey, I don't feel like he was just trying to like recreate the magic. He was trying to do something else, and I don't know, it worked for me.
Well, I saw one little note on Dazed. Linklater said he was trying. His intent was to create an inverse John Hughes movie.
In Dazed and Confused.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting because obviously we all know John Hughes movies as a staple of, youth,
right. Sweet 16,
and
Breakfast
high
Club.
school. Yeah, there's a lot of that. So the inverse, Linklater's.
He was inverted.
What were we doing? Communicating.
But I would agree. So I really liked Everybody Wants Some. Like,
oh, you really?
I really enjoyed it.
Oh, great! I wasn't sure.
I didn't know that I was going to. I didn't even know much about it. I was just like, okay, this is what I'm watching this one, and I found myself really enjoying it while simultaneously thinking that nothing was happening. There wasn't like a huge
totally
plot,
right? Yeah, it wasn't much. It was a little bit more of a romance than this one. Like you could say, there is the story, the through line of him getting the girl, but it wasn't like the only thing or the main thing at all.
Did you, Martin? I haven't seen Boyhood.
Yeah,
I know you talked about this before. You enjoyed it. It's really long, but it's obviously
long, great,
amazing accomplishment for what he did.
Mm-hmm.
Linklater said the film is a continuation of Boyhood in terms of beginning right where that movie ends, with a guy showing up at college and meeting his new roommates and a girl.
Oh, I could see that. That's interesting.
Yeah. So
that's an interesting way to. I thought it was definitely, and I also thought it was interesting that if you take Mitch Kramer in '76 being a freshman in high school, 4 years later he'd be 1980.
Yeah.
I thought
and a baseball player.
And a baseball player. It could potentially be that as well. Which I don't know where that falls in with Linklater's actual life, but
right.
But yeah, I saw this movie on a plane, just being stuck, and I'm like, oh, I'll check this out, and thought it was okay. But I really, I loved it on this rewatch. I thought it was great. And that's totally where we talked about Glenn Powell. Absolutely 100% where I've seen him before was this movie. And I didn't realize that until we talked about it with Hitman.
So he apparently was also in Fast Food Nation, which I have not seen.
Yeah, I think I've seen that, but I wouldn't have.
That was Linklater?
Called it. Yeah, he did.
Yeah. So this was his second movie.
But I think you could see Powell's standout, breakout character.
So I recommended this to a guy at work today, two guys at work, and I was like, I can tell you, I feel very confident that this movie is why Powell is having a career boom right now.
What took so long?
I think getting chances are to do a lot of this stuff, but I think Linklater, this one in particular, Powell's amazing. He shows a ton of
range,
charisma. He's got the Riz again. God, he's crushing it.
He's got the mustache.
He's.
I mean, he looks like an '80s baseball player.
Yeah, it's really
'80s college kid.
Kid.
He's got swag. It's just I really think this movie is. I would bet there is a line between this movie and him getting put in Top Gun.
Yeah,
and then from there it was off.
Yeah, I think one of the thing I felt like when I was watching this movie was they wanted to kind of have a philosophical character like McConaughey from Dazed and Confused, but they didn't want to put it all on one individual, so they kind of split it up. So you had Glenn Powell's character who had some of it. Then you had Wyatt Russell.
Definitely Wyatt
That was definitely the Wyatt Russell.
I didn't know at the time when I first watched it, I didn't know who that was. Russell.
Right.
Yeah. And then you could see kind of where both of those can pull from that McConaughey.
Talk about
character.
having a full-on, just natural stoner voice and vibe.
Totally nuts, right? When they were listening, and I had to look up the song because I'd heard it before, but I didn't know what it was. But it's on my playlist now. It was a Pink Floyd song. Fearless. That's just a 6-minute long off before Dark Side of the Moon, so before they got really big. But really good when he's talking about playing the E pentatonic scale at 100 miles an hour, because and then the guy goes, oh, I don't know, I kind of like Van Halen. He knew what he was referencing, and the title of the movie is Everybody Wants Him, which is a Van Halen song, and they played it in the movie as well. But yeah, you have these stoner types that are all about the pockets, right? Finding the groove of the song. But I appreciate both, right? I appreciate Pink Floyd, but I also do like Van Halen as well. And I think that's what Linklater is trying to get at. Like, there's a time and a place for punk rock. There's a time and a place for shredding Van Halen solos, and there's a time and a place to relax with Wyatt Russell philosophizing.
I would say going along with it, and this is why I wanted to bring it up initially for Dazed, is the soundtrack for this is also great. Like a lot of other great hits. And so there's also a time for Rapper's Delight.
And you could totally imagine in the 80s, everyone would try to learn every single lyric to it.
It was great. I really enjoyed that in the beginning, and at the end. Did you guys watch through the end?
Yeah. So I was going to tell you guys to make sure you stick through.
I didn't, unfortunately.
Yeah, because I don't know why they waited so long.
It is a long
Yeah, because I remembered that from watching it on the plane. I don't know why I stuck around, but I'm like,
I did because I wanted to literally see all the songs on the credits. So I was essentially jumping like ahead a little bit, and I was like, oh, there's something. So there's a whole long scene in a bar, and they're all going on long verses and are just
about introducing themselves.
Okay. It's good.
I'll have to go back and check that
out.
out.
The other character I like, Trumley. The one of the freshmen that just
get made fun of all the time?
Yeah, they make fun of him the whole time. I just like that he doesn't seem to really care. And he's licking the food off or whipped cream off of his fingers and just doesn't care. Like that they're totally making fun of him for it. And they're just always like, whatever. And he's just like, who cares?
Yeah.
I love that.
He's there.
Yeah. That feels like a lot of people, more realistic than, someone that's not aware of it.
It's an eclectic bunch. You have guys. I really liked the dude who was just going off on how much he hated pitchers in the beginning. I was just like, oh, what? This is weird. And then you realize he's just like the star of the team, the hitter. And they said he actually played baseball in college. So
that guy looked like
he had a great swing.
Looked apart.
Like absolutely, believe me, I was like
crushed it.
The baseball's coming. I was like, okay, are these guys? I wonder if they really tried hard to get baseball players. And I'm like, and they all could.
I think they did. I think that was one of the things I heard about this.
Like that's why you don't know most of the guys.
Right.
Like, they're all actors who have a little bit of probably baseball background.
Yeah. The guy who crushes it is actually, I was like,
he's Superman apparently.
Right. He's Superman in like the latest version of the CW's.
It's like it's like Lois and Superman or something like that.
When we did Major League,
I found that out at work today. I didn't know.
And we were talking about our favorite baseball movies. Charlie had mentioned, he's like, you guys forgot about Everybody Wants Some, and I'm like, it definitely, there's not a lot of baseball. There's really just that.
It's at least worth being mentioned.
But it's exactly. It's in the conversation. I thought that was a good scene. And the way they talk about the scout, they're like, he's like, oh, come on, that's bullshit. They were just joking around. And they're like, no, that's not. It just feels like, I don't know how those guys on the team would take it that seriously.
Well, and I think they kind of, Jake later on, said like they're all just at all times are like they're just talking shit, and they are just like, so it's like you can't really ever know what's real, especially when you're a freshman and you're trying to get the lay of the land. And you have,
it's a little fucked up. I love that part when he says it. They're just like making fun of him. They're like mocking him.
He turns around and like, and again, you have freshmen.
They totally did cock block him though. But it was very funny all around. Like that scene was almost perfect.
It was like,
it's like what Kevin would do.
He's over there talking about his average cock. Like,
no,
it's genius.
Because we're all talking about it. I mean, a lot of really funny scenes.
I thought
like that.
For sure the waterbed was coming through the ceiling at some point.
When you heard the crack.
Well, in the first scene, So I was like, at some point, I really thought it was happening when the coach was talking to them all in the house. I was like, this thing's coming crashing down here in a second. It's like, we got to take care of this place. Boom. Never happened.
Yeah. Well, that's like to your point, like that might have been in a more slapstick comedy movie. They might
Animal
have done
House. That's
what
it would have definitely happened.
Would have happened, but this they kind of show some restraint. And what do you think of the girl, the love interest?
She's really, really beautiful lady. She's really. I was like, I feel like I've seen her before, but I looked her up and I'm like, man, I don't know any of these movies. And the only one that I think is where I've seen her before, never saw the movie, but there's a I think a trailer I must have saw with her and like James Franco, and he's like a bad dude, and Bryan Cranston's the dad, and she brings this guy home.
It's like Anyone But Him.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Not Anyone But You, obviously, yeah. But yeah. So, and I was like, that must be where I saw her, because I mean, I didn't know anything that she was in, but she's in, like plenty of people, she's in a lot, and there's a lot of gorgeous looking girls they got walking around.
I just I did like how they were, pulled the all-nighter, on the water, and just had a good night, and then he's like falling asleep in class, and that's how it ends. Like, it's just perfect. That's exactly the vibe of college, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
done it.
She was in Zombieland. Double tap
2. I didn't see that one.
Yeah, I don't know if I did either.
I saw only the first, which I really liked.
I'm not a big sequel guy.
Yeah. What's Zombieland though? Did you see Dirty Grandpa? She's in that.
No.
No.
But yeah, I thought it was good too. I liked how, again, like Glenn Powell was able to like bounce around and kind of just be that like, hey, we're just gonna do this. Like, who cares what people are thinking? Like, yeah. I'm up for anything. Let's go do it. And whether it was the punk show or whether it was the country line dancing, which was it like a circle? Like, I didn't get that. I haven't been country line dancing.
Square dancing, actually.
No, but they were going in a circle.
Yeah.
I know, I'm joking.
Like,
but in like 5 wide.
Right. It was weird.
Then Cotton Eye Joe, they yell bullshit.
Yeah, a lot.
I'm familiar with that. But also it's like the old version of Cotton Eye Joe, which I think I like that one because it's not the one that we know.
The one that's on a ringtone on somebody's phone.
Was it on his?
No, but that's like the version that they play now, like the sped up.
Yeah,
yeah. That's one of the ones that will like turn into like a ringtone. I think
it was like popular in the day. Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Well, I think with Powell, it was his character. He even said at one point that he felt like he was the only one that realized that he probably wasn't going to be playing baseball the rest of his life. Yeah, so he was like, he was very much fine and comfortable learning and being around other stuff because there was more to life than just baseball, even though, the guy who could, the best hitter on the team didn't think like that because he was going to be a pro and probably could have done without the raw dog from Detroit.
Yeah. I don't know.
It was just a little too much.
A little too
for
much
like no real payoff, in my opinion.
Lighten up, Francis.
I did like though when he finally goes up to him at the end, he says, "Nice hit," and just kind of like awkwardly slaps him.
It's just it was just
he was definitely over the top.
It seemed like if you cut him from the movie, I don't think you lose anything.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like he has to be based on some real high-strung pitcher that Linklater knows or played with.
I don't know. Maybe it's possible
that could actually bring the heat or whatever. So
yeah, the next Nolan Ryan. So what did you think about the Twilight Zone obsession?
Loved it.
Yeah, I thought you might.
I love Twilight Zone as well.
Do you have all of yours on Betamax?
No, but I definitely knew as soon as he said it. I'm like, Eye of the Beholder. I'm like, that. Everyone knows that episode title.
Right? Did you know the season?
No, I didn't know that.
So it said he had them all, obviously, at Betamax. In, I think this is an episode title. A Stop at Willoughby, ironically. A character named Gart Williams longs for a more idyllic past and takes drastic steps to recapture it. In this movie, Willoughby takes drastic steps, falsifying his transcripts, lying about his age, so he can continue to play collegiate baseball and cling to an idyllic past. So
love it. Yeah, I know. I remember that. I
thought you would appreciate that little note, so I thought I would.
Yeah, it's like when they do have names, they mean something, right? Like I wonder if Finnegan is something with Finnegan's Wake.
Well, there was a note I saw about Dazed Confused that 3 guys that Linklater went to high school with, including a guy named Blake Wooderson. They sued for not giving rights to their names, but case got thrown out for like statute of limitations or something like that.
Okay,
so he is probably pulling from people, and or at least
or art,
right? But maybe change the name, Unless they're your boys, and you're like, don't worry, I'm going to name one of these guys.
O'Banion is such an asshole.
O'Banion,
jerk.
That guy didn't sue. He was like, no, that's
accurate.
O'Banion rules.
How much do you think it would hurt to get paddled by those paddles?
Oh, I thought you were going to say hitting the fucking junk with a baseball taped to a wall.
That too.
By the way, that's death.
Right, with a metal bat hitting them. Yeah.
That's death. Ball hit to the head.
Yeah.
Put a helmet on those kids.
Doesn't seem to be hitting them too hard.
Paddling doesn't seem like it'd be fun at all.
Not be a fan. Not at all. And why was that a thing?
I mean, just hazing.
Just hazing. And then did they like continue to do it? Like, did Mitch get hazed like once and then they were done? Or
that's what they kind of said. It was like once you get yours, then I think because I think
unless
didn't they
you're
ask
a dick
somebody
like O'Banion who's trying to do it all summer.
Did they ask somebody? They're like, did you already get yours?
Yeah.
So like they wanted to essentially be the one to get them.
Yeah.
And after that, I don't know. But
again, it goes to the lawlessness of Texas. Like I thought about that, like in Varsity Blues, when they're just all out having a party, or they're all going to the strip club or whatever, and you're just like, can teens just do whatever they want when they live in Texas? Like nobody gives a shit. And
just go to the 50-yard line for everything,
right? Yeah. And then because every parent has a gun on them, and will pull it on the kids, whether it's your mom trying to save you and has the shotgun, or you threw a bowling ball through the garbage can at the guy's mailbox, and he hunts you down and tries to shoot you.
Knock him over. I love when he puts it in gear.
Yeah, the other guy puts it in gear. That's great. Yeah. What's the worst that could happen there? Quick trigger.
Ordering the kegs.
Remember, he ordered the kegs. Is funny.
He's like, oh, I think you got the wrong
house. Did you guys ever throw any parties? My parents never left, so we never were able
One time we had some people over. Nothing crazy.
Nothing crazy.
No, never. I've been to a couple. Couple that got broken up and a couple that were fine. But
you've dealt with the Naperville police in your day?
I have not personally. No, but
our bigger ones were always out of town. Like I lived in town, so the people that like had like a farm and quiet, not a lot of nosy neighbors. Those were where we were going.
Were they the Ragers, or were they just like, hey, everybody's got a case of beer or whatever?
It was all right. There was usually a bonfire, and there was, inside and out stuff going down.
Stuff coming up, too.
So I think you should make another one. I think you should do a 90s one.
I mean,
maybe it'd
be hard to believe that he doesn't have, like, that's not, like, a want or on his radar. Maybe, he's got to come up with a story, obviously, but it would be... I could see that, right? Like, that would make sense. A little bit of a continuation aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So to that point, did you ever see Mid-90s by Jonah Hill?
Yeah.
Did you? Okay. So
yeah, it's a newer movie, right?
Yeah.
Never even heard of it.
It's like they're skateboarders.
Right, out in California. So the thing that I haven't seen that one, but I glean from, like, what I've heard about it, is that one also deals with, like, more... something going on in the kid's life at home, and then he's like going to hang out with these friends at the skate park tonight, and they like get away from that. Yeah. That's not what was the case here. So I'm wondering if like Linkletter does a 90s one, will it be more of like a romanticized version of it, where you're not dealing with like...
Well, it would seem that his...
more of lighthearted and fun.
Yeah, right.
I definitely started, I don't even remember really finishing it. I remember loving it, but I heard some good things about it. That's why I watched it. But I probably have to rewatch it.
Yeah.
To really kind of see. But yeah, I think we're probably more in line, since we're younger. We're more in line to write the movie, write the 90s version of Dazed and Confused, where everybody wants some.
Based off our vast experience.
Yeah, I mean, just you make it up.
That's what a movie's about, right?
Yeah, exactly. Fiction, baby.
All right, let's do it.
I'm in.
As always, let me tell you this. The older you get, the more rules they're going to try to get you to follow. You got to just keep living, man. LIVIN. And you can start by subscribing to our Film Fathers podcast, wherever you listen. Thanks, and save it for the pod.